Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Jake and I'm currently serving on active duty military. And in this video, I want to talk about the entire process of how to apply to Air Force Officer Training School. This picture right here is my graduating flight from Maxwell Air Force Base. That's me, handsome guy right there in the center. And I was in flight 210 of class 1607, so this was the year 2016, and this was the 7th graduation class for that year. If you're not one of my normal subscribers and you're watching this video, then potentially you're one of two people. You're either currently enlisted in the active duty, Guard, Reserves, or potentially another branch, Army or Navy, and you're thinking about commissioning as an officer in the Air Force. Or you're a civilian with a college degree, either a bachelor's or a master's. For the rest of this video, I'm going to use the terminology that they use at OTS, and they call people either prior E's or non-priors. So either you're a prior enlisted who went officer, or you're a non-prior enlisted who became an officer. And for most of this video, I'm going to be focusing on non-priors, since that's what I was. I was a non-prior who went through OTS. However, if you're currently in the service and you're thinking about going officer, the best advice that I have for you is to find somebody who recently did this and then ask them for help. Ask them to mentor you. For prior E's that want to go to OTS, there really isn't anybody that's going to walk you through the process like with non-priors and recruiters. So if you want to become an officer, you should go to the Education Center on base. They're going to have you download like a 5-page PDF explaining the process. Because you're already in the military expects you to be able to fill out this form. It's going to be Air Force Form 56. They're expecting you to upload all the necessary documents and get everything in order. Additionally, because you're already in the service, you've already been medically screened and you've already filled out your SF-86. So there's not as much paperwork, but the paperwork and the process that you do have to do as a prior E, it's on you. Additional information I would give you is to go to the Air Force OTS subreddits and join Reddit if you're not already on it. You can ask your questions here. There are lots of great people trying to help you. Additionally, there are always Facebook groups forming for whatever rated or non-rated board that's meeting. It'll say, non-rated application board 1607 or whatever. Google, search that on Facebook, and then you might be able to find a Facebook group made of other prior E's who are going through the application process, and you can reach out to them, ask them questions, or potentially help them as well. Okay, now if you're a non-prior, the most important thing I can tell you is that this application process is going to take between 1 and 2 years. If you want to commission as an officer in the Air Force from the civilian world, budget in your life that this process is going to take 1 to 2 years. Why does it take so long? You'll kind of get the full picture as we go through it. But this is something that I felt like my recruiter did not do a good job explaining to me, so I remember being incredibly frustrated how long everything was taking, but if I had just been given this reasonable expectation in the beginning of 1 to 2 years, then I could have planned my life better. And here's a brief outline of the process. You're going to find the officer recruiter for the Air Force. You're going to fill out a pre-qualification form. If the recruiter likes you, you're then going to gather all of your necessary documents, take the Air Force officer qualifying tests, finish your submission packets. You're going to wait for the next board for that packet to be submitted. You're then going to wait 4 to 5 months for the results of that board. You're then going to go to MEPS and join the delayed entry program, and then you're going to wait 3 to 6 months for the next available slot in a class at Maxwell Air Force Base. Okay, step 1 is to find the Air Force recruiter who recruits officers. And this actually might be a little difficult. I remember going on the Air Force's website and saying that I was interested. I submitted my phone number and email. I waited 48 hours. I got nothing. I then went to the local Air Force recruiting office in my town, and that recruiter was only for enlisted people. He told me to drive to the other side of town to actually find the officer recruiter. And there's only about 150 of these in the world. So if there's 50 states in the Union, that's on average three of these men or women per state. And my home state of Wisconsin actually only had 2. It was just an amazing coincidence that I'm from Milwaukee, and the recruiter for Eastern and Southern Wisconsin was also in Milwaukee. So if I was a resident of Madison or Green Bay, I would have had to drive several hours to meet this recruiter face to face. Now, this is really important that when you talk to this recruiter, you have to look confident. You have to look 100% serious that this is something you want to do. If you show up and you're like, yeah, I'm sort of interested. Do you have any brochures? Can I ask a bunch of questions? This is something that I'm just on a whim considering. They're not going to take you serious. These recruiters, they're great people, but they're very busy. They are juggling between 20, 50, maybe even 100 different names and faces of people at different points in the process of getting their package together and then going to OTS. So it took weeks or months before my recruiter finally remembered, over the phone, could recognize my voice and know who I was. So when you talk to these people, if you don't sound 100% sure that this is what you want to do, they're not going to take you serious. They've got way too many other applicants and interests to spend their time trying to sell you on something. That's not their job. But when you find the officer recruiter, something they're going to do is have you fill out the pre-qualification form. They want to know your age, height, weight, and fitness level to see if you qualify. They're going to want to know your degree and your GPA. If you have a STEM degree, science, technology, engineering, medicine, mathematics, that will get preference. They will be more interested in you if you have a STEM degree. What is your work history, criminal history, medical history, drug use history, financial history? If you have too much debt, or you've been missing payments, or you've ever defaulted on anything, that's not going to be a good sign. You're also going to have to write a personal narrative, like a paragraph of why you want a commission in the Air Force. And the recruiter, based on this information alone, will either say, I want to work with you, or immediately screen you out. The recruiter doesn't want to waste any time on somebody that they know later in the process will be excluded from joining. But if the recruiter says, hey, this pre-qualification form is good, I want to work with you, then you're going to start gathering all of these documents. You're going to submit your resume, up to 5 letters of recommendation sealed, sent to the recruiter. If you know any Air Force officers currently in or retired that can write you a letter, those would be pretty good. I didn't have any, so it wasn't a big deal. You can just get whoever to write these letters. Transcripts sealed, mailed to the recruiter. You're going to have to write a longer personal statement. This time you're addressing the board, not just the recruiter. You're going to get copies of your birth certificate, marriage certificate, social security card, passport if you have one. You're going to write out explanations for any legal violations. They're going to check your criminal history, and if you ever got a speeding ticket or a parking ticket, they're going to say, hey, when did this happen? Why did this happen? And you're going to have to explain yourself. You're also going to have to fill out an SF-86 security clearance form. They're going to have you fill it out now, even though the security clearance process doesn't actually start until you join the delayed entry program. Additionally, this is the most frustrating part, is you have to accumulate and acquire all of your medical records, anything serious going back your whole life, but mostly until the age of 18. They don't care about routine dental cleanings or braces, but any other time that you've been to a hospital, you have to go to that hospital and then ask them to give you a copy and release all of your medical forms. So if you just tell them, hey, I'm joining the military, clinics and hospitals, they understand why you need these documents. It should be free to get all of these documents if you're joining the military. And yeah, everything that you've ever done, they want to know. Additionally, on your application, you're going to select 3 to 5 jobs, and you're going to have to decide if you're applying to a rated application board or a non-rated application board. If you're COTS, either a doctor, nurse, JAG, chaplain, you know who you are. You probably were recruited by a specific, a different recruiter that handles doctors, nurses, JAGs, chaplains. But for everybody else, you have to decide if you want to go rated, and these are people on flight status. These are people who fly on airplanes. So pilot, combat systems officer, used to be called navigator, air battle manager, or RPA, remote pilot aircraft. And then there are the non-rated jobs. This is everything else. So finance, personnel, acquisitions, contracting, security forces, intelligence, maintenance, missiles. Some of these jobs require specific degrees. So if you want to be a weather officer, you'd be applying to non-rated, but you need a degree in meteorology. Same thing with engineering. And for me, when I was selecting these jobs for my career field, I honestly didn't know anything. I didn't know anybody currently serving in the military, so I really had no idea what the daily life of any of these jobs were like. I ended up selecting, I think, space, intel, missiles. I honestly don't even remember what I put, but because I put missiles as one of my 3 to 5, I ended up getting missiles. At some point in the process, while you're gathering all your documents, the recruiter is going to sign you up for a time to take the AFOQT, Air Force Officer Qualifying Test. This is just a generic standardized test to score your academic aptitude. The test time is a total 3.5 hours, but with breaks, it's going to take close to 5 hours. So this will be an entire morning at MEPS one day. And the academic portion is only 125 questions. So if you're applying to a non-rated board, your academic composite score is the only thing that matters. The other 400 or so questions, well, I'll just show you what the sheet looks like here. And for the academic portion, if you're applying non-rated, that's the only thing that matters. And you're going to do verbal analogies, arithmetic reasoning, word knowledge, math knowledge, and reading comprehension. Then if you're applying to a rated board, either pilot, CISO, or ABM, then there's a couple more sections down here that also matter for your composite score. And in between these two sections, they have you doing situational judgment tests, self-description inventory, and physical science. So part of your academic composite score is made up of verbal, which is these 3 sections, and quantitative, which is these 2 sections. And I'll go ahead and show you my test scores. I took the test on August 19th, 2015, and I got a 92. My verbal was 93, and my quantitative was 82. What do these numbers mean? Well, you're basically being stratified against everybody else who took the test that day. I think that's how the LSAT does it. And the range is between 1 and 99. So you can't get a 0, you can't get 100. To fail this test, you got below a 15 on the verbal and below a 10 on the quantitative. However, you need to do as well as you can on this test. They have everybody who commissions take this test. So I think Academy grads and ROTC grads also take this. However, they just can't fail it. They just have to get above a 15 and a 10. But for OTS people, this score is really important. If you get between a 60 and a 69, that's kind of fair. If the rest of your package is outstanding, you still have a chance of being selected. If you're 70 to 79, you're just average, then once again, if the rest of your package is good, you might still be good. Once you start getting above 80, your score is going to start looking more impressive, and this might become a stronger point of your package profile. And if you get anywhere in the 90s, that's really good. I mean, something would have to be wrong in other parts of your package because you got in the top 10% of test takers that day. There are also scores for pilot and navigator. They make everybody, including the non-rated people, take the pilot portion and the navigator portion. But if you're applying to a non-rated board, these scores don't matter. If you're applying to a rated board, take these serious. They really matter. If you're nervous about taking standardized tests and you want to study, you can go on Amazon and buy a book. I have no idea if these books are good quality. The books are, published and changed every year, so check out other Amazon reviews to see if they're quality study material. Something I always recommend to everyone is to sign up with Khan Academy. This is a 100% free website, a great resource, and you can use it to practice for tests. They don't have an AFOQT section, but they do have LSAT, SAT, GRE. So if you're nervous about the math, I highly recommend focusing on math problems at the 7th and 8th grade level. So if you've been out of college and you didn't have a degree that required mathematics and you're just really rusty, you can get some great pre-algebra, pre-geometry, general word problems that are comparable to what you'll see initially on the AFOQT math sections. And then if you're nervous about word knowledge, word analogies, or reading comprehension, then just focus on those under the SAT test prep section. Next step in the process is to go to MEPS. This is the Military Entrance Processing Station, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. MEPS is not a fun place. I think they're really trying to freak you out or intimidate you just a little bit when you go there. It's not their job at this station to be nice to you. They will be professional, of course. Nobody's going to be mean to you, but there are hundreds of people processing through this station every day who are joining the military, and their job is to get you through as quickly as they can. And it's going to be an all-day process. They're going to keep you at a hotel the night before and then bus you to the station to make sure you're there on time. They're going to check your eyes, your hearing. They're going to draw blood tests. They might give you a breathalyzer if you consumed alcohol that morning or are still drunk from the night before and you show any alcohol on your breath. They're going to send you home. They're also going to do a urine test. They're probably going to drug test you as well. They're going to get your height, weight, blood pressure. They're also going to give you a physical exam, and they're going to have you do certain motions with all your joints. They're going to check all your muscles. They want to make sure that there's nothing unknown that is wrong with you before, obviously, you physically join the military, and your body is now their responsibility. You're also going to meet with the doctor, and the doctor is going to check your tattoos and scars. These are things that you already admitted to having, tattoos and scars. And when you talk to the doctor, this is probably going to be a retired colonel, a medical colonel, and this individual is basically like the goalie, screening people from finally joining the military officially. And his job is to ask you questions and look over your paperwork. And if anything seems suspicious, if anything isn't congruent, or if you didn't admit to anything, he's going to immediately send you home. He's going to say, your day at MEPS is over. We cannot successfully process you today. So it's really important with your recruiter ahead of time that you gather all the necessary paperwork, you get all the necessary waivers, you disclose everything important about your medical history, because if at any point in MEPS that something doesn't make sense, it's not their job to figure it out. They're going to send you back to your recruiter. So there are lots of stories out there of people who went to MEPS and had to do it 3 or 4 times because new information or conflicting paperwork kept coming up. But if you make it through all those other portions of the application process, then next you have the interview. And in my opinion, the interview is probably the most important part. If you're a prior enlisted, you're going to interview with your squadron commander. If you're a non-prior going through a recruiter, then you're going to talk to most likely the detachment commander for the recruiting unit. This should be a lieutenant colonel. However, the lieutenant colonel, if he's unavailable, can delegate this down the chain of command. So you might be interviewing with a major or a captain. If this is your scenario, if your recruiter says the detachment commander is not available that day, would you like to interview with Major so-and-so or Captain so-and-so? I actually think it would be in your best interest to decline that and say to your recruiter, hey, I really want to interview with the detachment commander, the lieutenant colonel. Is there a time or date in the future in which he's available and I can meet with him on that day? I'm saying him, of course, as a generality. Of course, the detachment commander can also be a woman. And he or she, what are they going to be interviewing you for? I think they're going to schedule it for 30 to 40 minutes. But I ended up talking to my detachment commander for almost 2 hours, and he was really interested in me. I'm just older. I've done a lot of stuff. And this is what the Air Force Form 56 looks like. And this is what they're going to be doing. They're going to be asking you, give me information. And when you do this interview, it's like any other kind of general interview. But in the military especially, they want hard numbers. They want awards. They want to know anything that you did to look exceptional, stand out, take initiative. That's what the military is looking for. He wanted to know what I did in high school. I was on the high school chess team and I did martial arts in college. Like, that is stuff that he was looking for that me at age 32 did not value. I was like, this shouldn't matter. But this is their job, to extract as much information from you looking like a leader, and then basically writing, we call them bullets in the military, writing these bullets talking about what you've done. And I'm going to be honest with you, if you're getting any check marks for below average or fail, then the recruiter messed up. Your application should not have gotten this far. Nothing should be checked in the below average or fair category. So ideally, for your application to have any hope, you're getting check marks in the average, excellent, or outstanding. Average, once again, still isn't good if you really want to be selected to a competitive board, so anything in the excellent or outstanding, you're looking pretty solid. And if the idea of doing this interview makes you nervous, then it's helpful to practice. You can go on YouTube and you can watch videos about how to interview well. And if you're just worried about your own work history or personal history and you say to yourself, hey, I haven't done all of this interesting, amazing stuff, I've never won awards, well, it's not too late. If you know joining the Air Force is something you want to do and you've got 6 months before this interview is going to happen, volunteer for stuff. Go out into the world, find things to do, and then sell yourself. When you get to this interview, it's really important that you talk about what recently it doesn't matter if you've only been doing it a week. Talk about what initiatives in the real world that you've been taking to make yourself stand out more. Okay, and this whole process is kind of a race against time if you want to meet the deadline for submissions for either a rated or a non-rated board. And with these application boards, all positions are based on the needs of the Air Force. So the main commissioning sources are the Academy and ROTC. OTS is the flex source. So some years they'll select 300 people for a board, some years they'll select 60, some years they'll select none. And of course, these boards are paper boards. Nobody on the board is meeting you face to face, which is why this interview is so important, because the colonels or whoever who's looking at your entire package is really going to rely on this individual, for the in-person interview to see how does this person look, how does this person sound, is this person sincere about commissioning, are they doing it for the right reasons? And if your application is not approved, once again, it's based on the needs of the Air Force. You might necessarily have done nothing wrong. But your application can automatically be rolled, for sure 2 times, but I've heard even 3 times now. You can just roll it into the next application board and try again in the future. At this point, you're going to be waiting. You're going to have to wait 4 to 5 months before the results of the board have been announced, and they're going to tell you what job you were selected for. So I was selected for 13N, Nuclear and Missile Operations. It's at this point that you can walk away from the entire process or you can accept it. You have not signed any paperwork officially saying this is something you're going to do. This is the point in which you make the final decision. This is going to be my job. Should I commission as an officer? Is this something that I want to do for the next 4 to 8 years? And of course I said yes, so they're going to send you back to MEPS and you're going to officially swear in, sign all of your final paperwork. You're now in the delayed entry program. Here's me taking the oath along with all these fine gentlemen. Here's me and my dad. My dad's also an Air Force veteran. And once you're officially in the delayed entry program, you're going to have to wait for availability to join the next class date. And this could potentially be 3 months, or it could take up to 2 years. There are people that join the DEP program and maybe they have a business that they're handling or family issues that they're handling. If you want to voluntarily wait to go in, I think I remember my recruiter telling me you could wait up to 24 months, but you can't wait any longer than that. So once you officially are told you're going to Maxwell Air Force Base OTS, you're going to go back to MEPS one more time. They're going to gather up all of your documents, put it in a sealed envelope, and then give it to you to transport down to Maxwell. You can either drive your own car or you can fly. Something I'm going to just say real quick is make sure that the person at MEPS Xeroxes both sides of your orders. Obviously, there's a front and a back, and when they gave me 10 copies of my documents, of my orders, to take down to Maxwell, there was no back side to the orders. There was only a front side. It caused some problems when I got down there, but eventually, after like 6 weeks, it was resolved. And there you go, guys. You finally made it to Maxwell. Congratulations. This is my squadron. I'm standing somewhere like back here. I'm in the back right corner. And this was a completely different experience. I'll talk about this in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, guys, give me a thumbs up so the algorithm knows it's good. In addition, consider subscribing to my channel. I mostly talk about finance and investing topics, but occasionally I'll make military videos. And if you have any questions or comments about the process, I'll try to help you if I can. And until the next video, take care.